Hello everyone! I am so excited for today because it is a giveaway. We have officially hit 2,000 subscribers if you saw in one of my previous videos. So we are doing a giveaway, so make sure that you stay tuned to the end of the video so then you know how to enter it. I'm very excited. I love giving things away. Presents are my love language, whether it's giving or receiving. So I love to do these types of videos for you guys and I'm really excited about it. So today's video is going to be a Q&A style. I asked on Instagram and on YouTube what kind of questions you guys had for me, whether that was homeschool related, motherhood, or just wanting to get to know me a little bit better. And I got quite a few questions, so I'm going to go ahead and answer those in this video. Alright, so jumping into the questions. The first one is, which grade has been the easiest for you to homeschool and why do you feel that way? I feel like for us, it was our first year homeschooling. My son was in second grade and my daughter was more like preschool. So second grade for sure, because my son already knew things like reading and adding, subtracting, things like that. He hadn't quite gotten into multiplication yet. So I feel like that was the easiest because it was more just like maintenance mode instead of teaching new concepts. It was just making sure he had a good foundation in them. So I know that most people's first year homeschooling isn't always the easiest. If anything, sometimes that's the most chaotic and then it kind of like levels out as you get into a groove. But for us, I feel like that was the easiest grade to teach because he already knew everything. I just had to make sure that he kept going. And then for my daughter, we just went over her ABCs and the sounds of each letter and things. It was a very easy year. The next one, what do you do to take a break? I think it really depends because if it's a break in the middle of the year, I usually clean the house just so then that way when we start back up from our break, everything is clean and I'm not feeling overwhelmed. If it's our summer break where it's a little longer, I'll do a lot. I'll rest and I'll clean and prepare for the next school year, and we go out and we do fun things a little bit more often than what we do just during our normal weeks when we're on. The next question is, what's your #1 favorite curriculum and book, read aloud or picture book, that you used or read this year? Oh, our favorite curriculum, if you guys have been around for a little bit, you know it's Beautiful Feet Books History. I love that curriculum. They made history so much fun, not just for the kids, but for me. That curriculum is hands down one of my favorites because I never liked history, and the way that they teach it and their approach to it really made me interested in it as well as my kids. And it takes a very dry subject and it makes it fun. They do a lot of hands-on activities, they have recipes, they walk you through literature and to teach it instead of textbooks, and I adore that curriculum so much. They made it so fun. And then as far as our favorite picture book, I would have to say it was actually from Beautiful Feet Books. It was Phoebe the Spy. We read so many picture books this year and chapter books, but I think that was probably mine and even the kids' favorite book because it was so suspenseful and we were all trying to guess who was trying to kill George Washington, like who was Phoebe having to try to hunt out. And as it got to the end, we were reading it faster and faster, and it was just so suspenseful, and it was just building up anticipation for who it was that she was gonna have to try to stop. And that ended up being, I think, definitely my favorite books. And I'm pretty sure if I went back and asked my kids, that'd probably be theirs too, because they were on the edge of their seats and just waiting for me to get through it even faster. It was so fun to read. The next question is, how do you keep your kids motivated to complete their schoolwork? That one can be hard. I think when I start to see their burnout, I take a break. Whether that's a break for the day or we decide, you know what, we're just going to take an unplanned break for the week or two, because I have learned that if I just push and push and push, I'm going to drive them away from what I want, and I want them to enjoy learning. I want them to have a passion to know things and be interested and to be present. So when I push that and they're getting to their done points, I'm pushing them away from the very thing that I want them to come to. So I have personally learned that it's just better to take a break and to reassess, maybe even work in some fun things like some games in the morning, or maybe taking more frequent breaks throughout the day. I don't like that. Once I start something, I just want to finish it, but that's when I have to remember that they're kids and they're not like a driven adult who just wants to be type A and get things done. So I like to take breaks, and I like to add in some fun to our day when I'm recognizing that they're burning out and I want to keep them motivated. Last year, something that worked very well is when we were hitting that burnout at the end of the year. They saw the movie Yes Day on Netflix, and they wanted their own version of Yes Day. So I was like, okay, if you finish your curriculum for the year, then we can plan a Yes Day and do whatever you want to do within obvious, parameters. And that worked so well to keep them motivated, to get them to finish out their curriculum for the year. So plan a Yes Day if you can, because kids love that. All right, the next one is, if you could have one shelf of curriculum and a shelf of classic literature, what would be on your shelves? I think if I had a whole shelf of just curriculum that's from like one company, I would have to say Beautiful Feet Books. I want everything that they have. I love it and I adore it, and I just think the world of how they approach history, like I said earlier. As far as classic literature, I would have to say anything from C.S. Lewis or E.B. White. My kids have really enjoyed their books. And I actually found a website that lists 100 different classic books for children, and I will try to remember to link that down below in the description bar in case you are interested in trying to make your way through it as well, because I'm trying to collect all of those books for our bookshelf, and I think it's fun to have a list of books to follow so you can grab ideas from when you want them. All right, so the next question is, what are your 5 favorite picture books? So the first one, or one of my 5, is Phoebe the Spy, just because, like I said, it was such a fun book to read and just so suspenseful towards the end. The next one is Seeds and Trees. I had to write them down because I didn't want to forget anything. Seeds and Trees. I bought this book, I believe last year, when we were going to be doing our plant life cycle unit study, and I bought it because it said trees and seeds, and I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect to teach us. But it was the sweetest, it had nothing to do with the life cycle of a plant, but it was the sweetest book about a little prince who has to navigate good seeds and bad seeds, so good words and bad words, and how they take root in your heart. And so he had to go and take out all of the roots that were bad from the bad trees, and he had a little friend who helped him to do this, and it was the sweetest book about how words can take root in our heart, whether they're good or bad, and what we allow to take root. And it just brought on really beautiful conversations with my kids. I absolutely love that book. I will try to link all of these down below in case you guys are interested in checking them out, but that one is probably like my number 1 favorite picture book. The next one is The Adventures of Lily Huckleberry. She has, I think, 4, maybe 5 books. The first one we read was her Mexico book, and it was such a fun book. It's brightly illustrated. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's just a fun story following her around her little adventure around Mexico, and it's a really beautiful story. The next one is Journey. It's a wordless picture book, and it's so fun because my kids get to just throw in their ideas and their imagination on what they think is happening in the story. So each page we take a break and we really observe the picture, and then I ask them, what do you think's going on? Why do you think that's happening? So it helps them to develop those observation skills and to read people's emotions. They really have to look at the character's face and determine, do they look happy or sad? Why do you think that is? So they're really learning to take a step back and look at the whole picture being punny, and just see, like, why do they think that something is happening. And then the last one would be brown bear, what do you see? I read that a lot to my toddler, and he loves making the little animal sounds, and it's been a really fun book because it's very short and to the point, and he likes to just run around, but he'll sit down for that book. So I really enjoy reading that one. And it's been something that I've read to all of my kids, so it just holds a special place in my heart anyway. If money wasn't an issue, what curriculum would you use? Definitely Beautiful Feet books. So we save up for this curriculum. I know it's expensive. I know people when I go to their website sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a lot of money. And I get sticker shock. But I think that they're totally worth it just because I get to use it over and over and over since they don't do any worksheets. And if I could just have every single thing that they make, I think I'd just be like over the moon happy. So, Beautiful Feet books, if you want to sponsor me, I'm your girl. What is something uncommon that you'd love doing with that you love doing with your toddlers? And now with some of them older, do you still do it? If not, what do you do instead? Ooh. That's hard because I feel like the more kids we have, the less time I have to do the things with the little ones that I did with the bigger ones. I would say reading. Reading has been such a fun and amazing time, especially if you're doing it at the end of the day and your kids get to play around their bedroom and you're just reading to them, and they get to just start to transition from, being up and wide awake and running around to, okay, we're gonna get ready for bed. I've gotten to read so much to my 19 and my 9-year-old when they were little, and then it feel like it just slowly dissipates as I get to my 7-year-old and then my 2-year-old. So I need to make that more of a priority because that is something that when I look back on that time with them, I remember reading to them more than anything else, and that just holds such a special place in my heart. And I also feel like it helps them a lot with just speaking more and understanding more. And then I've noticed too that with my 19-year-old and my 9-year-old, they absolutely love reading. And the kids, my 7-year-old and my 2-year-old, the ones who I haven't gotten to read to as much as I got to read to my older ones, they love reading, but they don't love it as much as my older ones do. So I really feel like if you read to your kids when they're toddler age, they grow to have that really strong love of learning when they're older and that love of reading when they're older, than if you don't do that. And then the second thing that I would say I love doing the most with my toddlers is cooking. I remember when, some of my fondest memories are when my 9-year-old was a toddler, and he and I would make what we called Christmas waffles. So he would help me make the waffle batter and put it into the waffle maker, and then when they would come out, he would just sprinkle all of these Christmas sprinkles, whether it was Christmas time or June. We would make Christmas waffles, and he absolutely loved it. And even now, like my 7-year-old, she loves cooking with me, and I'm starting to get my toddler to help me with some things, but not as much as I had my older kids help me with. It's hard, you guys. The more kids you have, to keep up with the traditions that you started with their older siblings and then continue to carry them through, just because you're spread in so many different directions. But cooking and reading are the two things that I've loved doing with my kids, especially when they're little. The next question is, what has been your favorite subject to teach? What curriculum did you use for that, and any additives you did for it? So I already mentioned that in one of the other questions, which was Beautiful Feet books, early American history. And I did add some things to that, but that was mostly their rabbit trail books that we added. I'm actually thinking that if for whatever reason our history curriculum that we're changing to next year doesn't work out, I might go back to Beautiful Feet books, early American history, and instead of doing their curriculum again, I might just pull from their rabbit trail book selections and kind of shape and mold a history curriculum around that, just so we can really solidify everything that we've already learned, but I'm not completely sure. It would be nice if they had like part 1 and part 2 like they do for their Around the World, just so we can dive a little bit deeper. Okay, some of the last questions are, how do you narrow down and feel confident in your choices? I get overwhelmed by the options and excited about trying to do all the things. Me too. I get so excited about all the different curriculum options, and sometimes I want all of them, and it can feel very challenging to just narrow down and pick one, because you know at the end of the day, like, I can't have 5 math curriculums. I have to pick one. My advice would be to remember why you homeschool. You know, do you want your kids to be pushed really hard, or do you want to take a more gentle approach? That has helped me so much, because at the end of the day, I think I've said this before, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to look back over your life and be like, I wish I had chosen a different math curriculum. So I think taking that kind of perspective and realizing that while it feels big and it can feel overwhelming, it's not as big and overwhelming as we make it in the moment. It's definitely an important decision, but it's not going to be anything that makes or breaks your homeschool, right? So if it's not working out, yeah, it can be a struggle to change and to pay for another curriculum, but maybe you don't pay for another curriculum. Maybe you see what you want from this curriculum and you pull out and use just what you think will be appropriate, or you can make your own curriculum. You can find free resources online. There's so many different ways to approach learning and homeschooling. And so I would say just don't get overwhelmed. And I know that's so much easier to say rather than do, but I think it also helps if you watch videos on YouTube, so then you know exactly what it looks like. If you can find somebody who does full curriculum reviews where they're opening up the book and you can see every single page. I think it also really helps to go to the homeschool convention if you have one in your state, so then that way you can go and physically see these products in person, or even ask a local homeschool mom if she happens to have any of those products that you might be experimenting with for next year, so you can see it and you can even get her opinions on it, like what worked and what didn't work and what she liked and what she didn't like, so then you can see if that might be a good fit for you and your family. And then also, if you're not quite sure, like if you're kind of leaning more one way than the other and you're not quite sure if you want to use that particular curriculum but you think it's going to be a good fit, then buy it used, because even if it's like halfway written in, you can still make photocopies and then just white out those areas, and then you can try it before you invest fully in it. The very last question is, do you use platforms like Outschool to supplement your kids' learning? I do use Outschool. I love Outschool. We stopped using them halfway through the year, but I do plan on jumping back in this coming year. We usually don't use them for anything like math or language arts, but we do use them for extracurriculars that my son enjoys. He has taken lots of drawing classes, and he would like to take some coding classes through them. So I'm going to be looking into those 2 classes this year, because I really want him to grow in those areas and have 2 different sets of skills. My husband really wants him to get into technology, and I really want him to keep with his passion of drawing and creating art and things like that. So we are going to be using that, and I do, if you happen to want to try their classes and you haven't yet, I do have a coupon code that I always link down below my video, so I will link that down in case any of you are checking out Outschool and wanting a discount. It's so nice because they have such a wide variety of different types of classes. They have math and language arts, and they have dance, and they have, I even believe, like music classes, like learn how to play the guitar or piano, and it's just such a wide variety. And so they make it so easy to jump into a class, so you can either pay weekly or you can join something that is ongoing. And so it's really, really nice, and I love the flexibility of it. It's nothing that's like a huge commitment, and if you don't like it, then you don't have to sign up for the next class. You can cancel, and that having that option has been a blessing for us, and my son has learned a lot through the drawing classes that he's taken. And actually, this is the last question. I missed it. What are some of your favorite classic literature books? So I would have to say one that we read this year was The Mouse and the Motorcycle. My son and I enjoyed that book so much. We read it together because we tried out The Brave Writer, and that was the book that we had chosen to do the study on. And it was such a sweet book about a little boy who befriends a mouse that he finds at a hotel that his family stays at, and he lends him his motorcycle, and it takes you on the adventures of what this mouse does with the motorcycle and whether or not he listens to the little boy's rules. And it was such a sweet story about friendship and just caring for others. And we really enjoyed that one. Then the next one is, I would have to say for my kids, it's probably Pippi Longstocking. They loved Pippi's shenanigans. They were deep chuckling halfway through that book. We had read it for, someone was doing the Wild and Free book club where you get like the Wild and Free book, and it has book topics or books that you can read, and then it gives you discussion questions. It's such a fun resource. But her daughter had picked that book for our club to read, and so they read it and they absolutely loved it. And then after, it even gives you like, I guess, party ideas. So it ended with a party. So I don't know if they loved it because of the party or the book, but they definitely loved the book. Okay, now for the fun part, the giveaway. So I'm going to do a $25 gift card to Amazon. You guys voted, and I think Amazon was like the very highest option that you all chose. So it's going to be a gift card to Amazon, and all you have to do is just let me know what is your favorite book and throw the little book emoji next to it, and then make sure that you are subscribed and have liked this video, and that's it. That's all you have to do to enter. So just those 3 things. What's your favorite book with a book emoji? Like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. That is it. I will be announcing the giveaway winner on June 7th, so make sure that you tune in for that. And that's it. I'll see you guys again later. Bye.